Welcome to this exploration of one of the most disturbing and unresolved cases ever recorded in the American South. Before we dive in, I encourage you to drop a comment below, telling us where you're watching from and the precise time you're hearing this narration. We're curious to learn how widely these recorded events have spread and at what hours of the day or night they reach their audience. In the summer of 1844, events unfolded in Vicksburg, Mississippi, that would shatter everything the region's wealthy plantation owners held true about the world, about human nature, and about the line separating the natural from the supernatural. It began with quiet rumors among field workers and domestic servants, then moved into the offices of doctors and ministers, and finally penetrated the uppermost levels of Mississippi society, where it stayed a tightly kept secret for over a century. At the heart of the tale are two young women who became known as Dahlia and Lily, twin sisters whose very being appeared to challenge the laws of nature. Born from the same mother, yet manifesting as complete opposites, like night and day given human form. Dahlia had skin noted in auction documents as dark as rain-soaked Mississippi earth, with eyes that held depths no ordinary human stare should possess. Her twin, Lily, was marked, or perhaps gifted, with a condition doctors of the time termed leucism. Her skin was pale as moonlight, her hair white like cotton blooms, her eyes an unusual pale amber that appeared to change hue with the light. Side by side, they created a duality that people found deeply unnerving, not simply because of their striking physical contrast, though that alone was extraordinary, but because of something in their aura, in the perfectly matched way they moved, in the identical force of their gazes, that implied they were not really two distinct people, but two expressions of one incomprehensible whole. This is not a tale of romance or desire in the usual meaning. This is an account of fear, fixation, and inexplicable occurrences that envelop two women whose existence seemed to ridicule the strict racial divisions on which Southern society depended. What you're about to hear has been reconstructed from plantation ledgers, medical journals, church records, and private diaries that stayed concealed in family collections until recent decades. The earliest recorded mention of the twins shows up in the books of the Riverside Auction House in Natchez, Mississippi, on June 14, 1844. The listing stands out in several ways. Unlike standard slave auction entries that offered thorough physical details to justify price, this one carried only a short note. Twin females around 20 years old, one of pure complexion, one affected by white condition, origin unknown, sold together as one lot to agent for Belmont interests. Price not entered in public record. The actual sale amount, uncovered later in private Belmont papers in 1967, was astonishing $18,000, at a time when a prime field hand might fetch $500, and even the finest house servant seldom went beyond $3,000. What made these two women command such an outrageous price? Reverend Samuel Hutchins, a Methodist preacher who happened to be in Natchez that day in June, set down his thoughts in a journal that remained private until his great-granddaughter gave it to the Mississippi Historical Society in 1952. He wrote, "I have seen many sorrowful souls sold into slavery, a practice I grow ever more unable to square with Christian doctrine. But today I witnessed something that unsettled me on an entirely different level." The twin women on the platform stood hand in hand, forming a visual opposition so extreme it felt almost unearthly. One dark as midnight, one pale as death, yet every feature of their faces was exactly the same. They did not cry or beg as so many others do. They simply stood with a calm that felt beyond this world and regarded the crowd with eyes that seemed to perceive far more than they ought. What troubled me deepest was how they moved in absolute unison, as if linked by unseen strings. When one inhaled, the other inhaled. When one turned her head, the other echoed the motion precisely. The Belmont family ranked among Mississippi's most influential. They owned 3 vast plantations covering over 15,000 acres, wielded considerable political power in state and national Democratic circles, and kept business ties across the South and up to New York finance houses. Whatever drove them to spend such an unheard of sum on the twins, it was no passing fancy. Unlike every other enslaved person bought by the Belmont interests that year, Dahlia and Lily were not assigned to cotton fields or even regular house duties. Instead, based on later architectural plans and servant recollections, they were placed in a specially fitted portion of the Belmont mansion itself. A former storage wing on the 3rd floor, reached only by one locked hallway. This setup sparked instant gossip. Plantation owners simply did not place enslaved people inside family living areas, except for the most trusted domestics, and even then only in specific servant zones. To give an entire wing to 2 new arrivals implied either exceptional favor or exceptional wariness. Later evidence points to the latter. The Belmonts were not pampering the twins. They were confining them. The first clear sign that something was gravely amiss came in August 1844, scarcely 2 months after the twins arrived. Dr. William Ashford, the family doctor who kept meticulous notes on all Belmont household medical issues, was called to treat injuries both sisters had suffered. His report, preserved in the Vicksburg Medical Society archives, contains remarks he clearly found hard to rationalize. I was summoned to treat lacerations on the left forearms of both females known as Dahlia and Lily. The cuts were identical in position, depth, and length, which was odd since they were said to have been hurt in separate events. Even more striking, according to the initial account from Mrs. Belmont's housekeeper, the wounds were roughly 48 hours old. Yet on examination I found healing advanced to a stage that normally takes 7 to 10 days. Scar tissue was fully formed, inflammation completely gone, and both women reported no pain or restriction of movement. Dr. Ashford's notes grew more troubled. What disturbs me most is not only the rapid healing, but the perfect symmetry between the two. When I took Dahlia's pulse, it registered about 48 beats per minute. Lily's pulse, taken at the same moment by my assistant, matched exactly. And more astonishing, the beats aligned in perfect timing, as if both hearts answered to one controller. When I checked reflexes, reactions happened at the identical instant in both. I tried examining them separately in different rooms, but both grew violently agitated, breathing fast, showing clear distress. Until reunited, the doctor's closing comment betrayed his unease. I must record, though it feels improper for a medical document, that I found the presence of these subjects deeply disquieting. The combined effect of their gazes, one from eyes black as night, one from eyes pale as milk, was profoundly upsetting. I left the Belmont home with an unexplained dread that lingered for days. The enslaved community around Vicksburg formed its own interpretation of the twins, shared in hushed talks in the quarters and during rare Sunday gatherings. An elderly woman named Claudia, interviewed in 1932 at age 97, remembered her days as a house servant on a neighboring plantation. She said, "We never spoke their names where white folks might hear, but among ourselves we called them the night and day flowers. One bloomed in shadow, one in light, yet they were the same bloom torn in two. The old folks claimed they weren't fully of this earth, said something had touched their mother before birth, something that marked them for a reason we couldn't grasp. The dogs sensed it. Dogs always sense it. They'd whimper and cower when the twins passed near. Even the fiercest fighting dogs would tuck tail and avert their eyes. But strangely, the dogs couldn't settle on which one frightened them more. They'd glance at the dark one and whine, then look at the pale one and tremble. Another testimony, taken in 1928 from Isaiah, formerly enslaved on the Belmont land itself, added more. Miss Dahlia and Miss Lily never did a day's labor that I witnessed. They kept them locked in that east wing, and sometimes you'd spot them at the window. Always together, always touching, as though even an inch apart was unbearable. But it was the scent that told you they'd been near. Two scents, really, blending into one. One deep and sweet like night flowers, heavy and rich. The other fresh and bright like morning magnolia. Yet when those two mingled, they formed something altogether different. Something that twisted your gut, even as it pulled you closer. The dual fragrance appears in many accounts from different sources. In September 1844, Judge Marcus Bellamy, a circuit judge and close Belmont friend, noted in his private diary after dining at the mansion, "All evening I noticed odd aromas drifting from various parts of the house at once. One dark, floral, and intoxicating, the other lighter, almost otherworldly. As the night wore on, the scent seemed to blend and grow stronger. When I remarked on it to Charles Belmont, he grew visibly ill at ease and quickly changed topic. By fall 1844, conditions at the Belmont mansion had worsened enough that the family sought outside help. They chose to bring in the church, specifically asking Reverend Thaddeus Price, a Baptist preacher respected for strict morality and spiritual insight, to evaluate the situation. Fragments of Reverend Price's diary survive despite his later efforts to burn his papers. An entry from November 3, 1844 reads, "I was called to the Belmont estate for spiritual guidance on a matter described as delicate. On arrival I was led to the third floor east wing, to rooms where I met the twin women Dahlia and Lily. They sat together on a settee, fingers laced in an almost ceremonial way. The contrast was extreme. One with the deepest complexion I have ever seen, rich and somehow glowing. The other so pale she seemed nearly translucent, like spirit made solid. Yet every facial feature was identical, mirror images that somehow heightened rather than softened their opposition." The entry continues, "What unsettled me most was the feeling when both fixed their eyes on me at once. One pair dark and bottomless, one pair pale and piercing, yet both carrying the exact same look, the exact same force. I felt strangely as though their combined stare reached into my mind from opposite sides, pulling out memories long buried. I thought suddenly of my brother, gone these 20 years, and the manner of his death. I recalled angry words spoken to my wife that I had never confessed. All this flooded my mind in seconds, and I felt the awful certainty that they knew every thought, that together they were reading my soul like an open page." The writing grows more agitated. "I tried speaking with them about faith and salvation. When Dahlia finally answered, her voice carried deep resonance. 'Reverend, you speak of sin and redemption.' Then Lily continued, her tone higher and clearer, yet perfectly matched in rhythm. 'But what if some souls stand outside that order?' Then both spoke together in flawless unison. 'What if there are beings never meant for salvation or damnation, who simply exist?' The impact of their joined voices speaking as one was deeply disturbing." A later entry, November 5, 1844, written in shaky script, "I preached Sunday on resisting temptation, as I have many times. But ascending the pulpit and facing the congregation, I could not deliver my prepared words. Instead, I heard myself declare, 'Do not resist the temptation, for it already walks among us.' In two forms, speaking through two mouths, seeing with four eyes. The congregation sat silent in shock. I cannot account for what possessed me. I felt detached from my own body, watching myself utter words not my own." Reverend Price left his ministry in December 1844, claiming poor health. He never preached again. His wife wrote to her sister, "Thaddeus is no longer himself. Something occurred at that accursed house. He wakes at night in panic. Sometimes I hear him sobbing, murmuring about mirrors and shadows and twins who are truly one. He says we are not safe, that things walk the earth that should not. I fear for his mind." The twins' influence extended beyond direct contact. Through winter 1844-45 and into spring, strange events troubled families and businesses tied to the Belmonts. Charles Belmont's partner, Richard Thornton, died suddenly of an apparent stroke at 42. His widow wrote privately that, in his final weeks, Richard had grown obsessed with the mirror problem at the Belmonts and had draped every mirror in their home. Overseer Thomas McKinley grew erratic by March 1845. Fellow workers said he claimed to hear two harmonious voices singing at night in an unknown tongue. He told his wife he had seen the twins at the cotton field edge at dusk, though the family swore they never left their rooms. On May 3, 1845, McKinley was found dead in his cabin, ruled heart failure. His last journal page repeated one line dozens of times. "They are not two. They are not two. They are not two." Most chilling was the fate of James Belmont, Charles's younger brother, who ran the family cotton gin. In April 1845, he became convinced the twins caused repeated machinery breakdowns. He told his wife he had seen them in the gin doorway one evening. As he watched, they stepped together and their outlines overlapped, casting a shadow neither fully dark nor fully light. 2 weeks later, James was found in his office, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot, service pistol beside him. No formal note, but on his desk lay a rough sketch, 2 female forms. One filled black, one left blank, an equal sign, then a single figure half dark, half light. Beneath, "God help us when they remember they are one." Following James's death, the Belmonts invited scientific study. Dr. Adrian Rowley, a New Orleans physician trained in Europe, arrived in June 1845 under strict secrecy, paid handsomely, and granted unusual freedom for examinations. His research journal, found in 1973 in a Louisiana private collection, reads like Gothic fiction. June 28, 1845. I performed tests to detect any physiological link beyond obvious twinship. Drawing blood from Dahlia and transfusing into Lily produced no rejection. Instead, Lily's vitals aligned even more precisely with Dahlia's. Reversing the procedure yielded the same result. Each exchange seemed to deepen their bond. Later entries grow darker. When separated even by a screen, so they could neither see nor hear one another. Both showed acute distress. Racing hearts, labored breath, calling out an impossible harmony. Yet their vital signs stayed perfectly matched, hearts beating as one, breathing in identical rhythm, as if joined by some undiscovered force. By July 15th, Rowley wrote, "I now doubt the wisdom of this work. Worse are the dreams. For a week I have seen through 4 eyes at once, 2 views merging into one vision clearer than normal sight. In the dreams I am both Dahlia and Lily, feeling the world from both sides simultaneously, and I grasp with dread that they are not separate persons, but halves of one consciousness, divided into 2 bodies." August 1st reveals deeper alarms. I conducted an experiment I now regret bitterly. I asked them to speak different phrases at the same moment. Dahlia said, "We are." Lily said, "One soul." Yet the sounds overlapped so that I heard a third sentence neither spoke alone. Something like, "We are one soul divided." When I insisted they had spoken separately, they smiled. Dahlia said, "Perhaps you heard the truth that lies between our words." Lily finished, "Perhaps you heard what we truly are instead of what we seem." Rowley's final notes show a man unraveling. August 18th. This morning during routine checks, I stood with Dahlia left and Lily right, catching both in peripheral view. For an instant their forms overlaid, dark and light occupying the same space, forming a composite, neither one nor the other. Direct gaze made the effect vanish. Yet I cannot shake the certainty that the peripheral glimpse revealed reality. His last entry, August 20th. I leave Vicksburg today and will not return. The subjects are not what the Belmonts think. They are not merely tightly bound twins. They are pieces of something never meant to be split, something striving to reunite. I urgently advise keeping them apart, never allowing prolonged touch, and above all preventing them from seeing their joint reflection in one mirror. I have witnessed what happens when they stand before a mirror together. The glass shows not two figures. It shows one. Dr. Rowley was found dead in a swamp outside Vicksburg 6 days later. No marks of violence. Official cause accidental drowning, though the examiner noted rapid decomposition, a missing tongue, and eyes altered. One nearly black, one nearly colorless. After Rowley's death, the Belmonts altered their approach sharply. New strict rules: no prolonged hand, holding or touch. Separate rooms with locked door between. All mirrors removed, never both in direct sunlight together. A September 1845 letter from Margaret Belmont to her sister offers insight. We have been told the subjects must stay as separate as possible without actual harm. Contact strengthens their link, and sunlight somehow aids it. James understood this before he died, though it broke him. He saw something that proved the danger. I sometimes think of those poor beings trapped in two forms, aching to be whole. Is keeping them apart kindness or cruelty? Despite measures, strange events persisted. Servants heard nighttime singing, two voices in flawless harmony, from opposite ends of the wing. The blended scent grew stronger, filling the house. Guests stopped accepting invitations. The mansion gained an unsettling reputation. In February 1846, a new pattern emerged. Neighboring planters reported seeing identical figures, one dark, one pale, at their property edges at twilight. The figures stood motionless, silent, watching. Most alarming, sightings happened simultaneously miles apart, when household staff swore both twins remained locked in their rooms. Planter Harrison Wade wrote, "I saw them again tonight at my Northfield border. I approached with rifle, but nearing them I realized I could see through them, like projections or ghosts. I shouted, both turned toward me. Then they walked toward each other, growing more solid. When they met and clasped hands, I could no longer tell them apart. Then they vanished, leaving only that odd mingled fragrance and a deep sense of wrongness." Desperate, the Belmonts summoned Professor Elias Thornton from Yale, expert in animal magnetism and mesmerism. He arrived March 1846 and stayed 2 weeks. His journal, March 15th. The subjects display connection beyond any known biology or psychology. They finish one another's thoughts, mirror movements, synchronize physiology regardless of distance. More strikingly, they appear able to project themselves beyond their bodies. Staff confirm both were secured in rooms during reported sightings miles away. March 22nd shows rising fear. I now dream their dreams. Visions of a time before birth, a single soul ripped apart. Darkness and light forced into separate shapes. Terrible loneliness eased only by reunion. Final entry, March 24th. Last night around 3 a.m., I woke feeling watched. Opening my eyes, I saw both standing at my bed foot. Impossible, as their doors were locked. They held hands, where hands met, boundaries blurred. They spoke together. We are tired of division. We wish to be whole. Then they faded. I will advise the Belmonts to free these women, for no earthly power can keep them apart much longer. The warning was ignored. Security tightened instead. A deadly error. On the night of April 30th, 1846, amid a violent thunderstorm, something inexplicable happened at the mansion. Morning revealed the east, wing guards unconscious, faces locked in identical terror. Revived, they recalled nothing. One repeated. They merged. They merged. The twins' doors stood open, unlocked from inside. Rooms empty. Between them on the wall was a mark no one could explain. A scorch neither fully dark nor fully light, shifting with viewing angle, shaped like a human form containing two overlapping figures fused into one impossible silhouette. More eerie, Dahlia's darker room had grown slightly paler. Lily's paler room slightly darker, as though each had left or taken essence from the other in preparation for union. Search parties were sent with large rewards, but Dahlia and Lily were never again seen together in any confirmed way. Sightings continued for decades. Through the late 1840s and 1850s, people reported lone dark or pale women at twilight, or both in separate places at once. But other accounts describe something different, a single figure appearing both dark and light, depending on viewpoint. Traveler Marcus Whitfield in 1849 wrote, "Riding the Natchez Road at dusk, I saw a woman by the wayside. Approaching, I could not tell if she was dark or pale. She seemed both. Passing beside her, she turned. I saw 4 eyes, 2 dark, 2 pale, all gazing with the same blend of sorrow and victory. I heard one voice, or perhaps 2 in unison, say, 'We are almost whole again. Soon we will be one.' Then she, or they, stepped back and disappeared." The Belmont family never recovered. Charles died in 1848 of a wasting illness. Attendants recalled his delirious cries about merging and two becoming one. Margaret withdrew completely. The mansion stood vacant for years. Its reputation deterred buyers. Descendants of enslaved Belmont servants kept the story alive. One great-granddaughter of a chambermaid recounted, "My great-grandma said Miss Dahlia and Miss Lily weren't truly 2 people. They were one soul split at birth, always struggling to rejoin. The night they got free, there was thunder that wasn't quite thunder, and light that was both dark and bright. After that, no one saw 2 girls again. What they saw was one being, both and neither. Something existing between black and white, separate and joined, human and something else." Reports persisted through the 19th and 20th centuries. A farmer in 1867 saw a woman whose color seemed undecided. A riverboat captain in 1889 described overlapping figures. During the 1918 solar eclipse, multiple witnesses saw a silhouette shifting darker and lighter with the eclipse. The dual fragrance kept appearing, often before odd events or at liminal places, crossroads, riverbanks, doorways, mirrors, twilight. In 1923, elderly Delilah Johnson told a student, "Folks always ask what became of those twins, but that's the wrong question. They didn't go anywhere. They finally came together, became what they were meant to be, one soul in one body, or maybe one soul needing no body. White folks tried keeping them apart out of fear. Well, they joined anyway, and what they became is something we have no name for." In 1962, as the old mansion faced demolition, workers found the east wing bricked shut. Breaching it revealed nearly pristine rooms, the wall marks still visible, seeming to shift in peripheral vision. Beneath floorboards they found a small wooden box holding 2 items. A lock of black hair bound with white ribbon, and white hair bound with black. Strands so entwined they could not be separated. Opening the box released the blended scent so powerfully several workers fled. The locks were given to the Mississippi Historical Society. DNA analysis produced baffling results. Black and white strands shared markers indicating origin from one individual, as if one person grew 2 distinct hair types. Science could not account for it. Today the story of Dahlia and Lily lingers between history and myth. Scholars offer theories: rare psychological disorders, exaggerated tales, mass suggestion. But these fail to explain documented evidence, multiple credible witnesses, physical artifacts, genetic oddity, and ongoing encounters. Dr. Maria Reyes, whose 2003 dissertation examined the case, concluded, After years of study, I accept that parts of this story defy current understanding. What happened in Vicksburg from 1844 to 1846 involved phenomena we lack concepts or language to describe fully. They started as two, they yearned to be one. And if continuing reports hold truth, they achieved a state neither two nor one, but something else altogether. To this day, Mississippi residents speak of meeting the Twilight Woman, or Sister Soul, a figure at dawn or dusk near thresholds and crossroads, appearing both dark and light, both singular and dual. Such tales are dismissed as folklore, yet the scent persists. Many with no knowledge of the history report the strange mingled fragrance. Deep heavy blooms mixed with airy ethereal ones. Those who smell it sometimes feel watched by four eyes too dark and too pale, seen from two angles at once. Perhaps the last word belongs to an anonymous 2015 note in the Historical Society guest book. I came researching family history and stumbled on the dahlia and lily files. As sunset fell, I smelled flowers, two kinds blending. Looking up, I saw in the window glass a figure behind me. Turning, no one was there. Yet in the reflection she, or they, remained, one shape holding two, gazing with eyes dark and light. I heard or felt words. We are still here, still together, still one and two and neither. We are what happens when the divided finally merges. Then the reflection faded, leaving only the mingled scent of flowers. And so the tale of the most unsettling enslaved twins in Mississippi history does not truly end, but shifts form, from recorded past into enduring mystery. Something remarkable happened in Vicksburg in the 1840s, something that still reverberates through the region in whispers, scents, and fleeting glimpses. On thick, humid Mississippi nights, when day and night blur, some still catch that blended fragrance of dark and light blossoms, and those familiar with the story may offer a quiet prayer or blessing, recognizing the presence of something once divided that refused to stay apart, something that battled its way back to unity, something that now dwells in the liminal space between one and two, present and absent, natural and supernatural. They say, if you listen closely in those moments, you can hear singing. Two voices in perfect harmony producing overtones that resonate in chest and bone, singing in a tongue that speaks straight to something ancient inside us about being torn apart and longing for reunion, about being split and fighting to become whole once more. And perhaps that is the deepest message of Dahlia and Lily. They remind us that certain bonds can overcome any obstacle, certain connections endure any attempt at severance, and that sometimes, against every odd, love finds its way back to completeness. The true bizarre secret of the most haunting enslaved twins in Mississippi history is not their beauty or the strange events around them. The secret is that they were never genuinely two separate souls, but one soul ripped in half, one soul that spent every observable moment striving to reverse that teared. And if the legends hold truth, they succeeded. They are whole now, existing in that in-between realm, visible only when light balances between full day and full night, when the world itself hovers between states. In that space they are together at last and forever. One soul in one impossible form that is both dark and light, both here and beyond, both of this world and outside it. That is the inexplicable secret no one could ever fully grasp. It touches something so deep and essential to being human that we have no adequate words for it. The knowledge that we are all, in some way, divided from our own wholeness, separated from the part we have lost, and that our profoundest desire is reunion with whatever piece of ourselves went missing, to become complete, to be finally, impossibly, perfectly whole.